What's up, guys? We are officially live. We're going to give it a minute for people to join and go from here. So, why don't we go ahead and sit tight here for a second? Today's live is kind of one that we originally today we were actually supposed to have JK Armament on, but Jake could not get, unfortunately, away this week. So hopefully next week we're going to do an interview with JK Armament. So now that you know that, start thinking up the questions and stuff you guys want to ask Jake. Hit me up in Discord, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You can pre-ask me questions. I'll throw them all in a notepad. We'll have a nice little list going on. That way, you guys who get in your questions early will already most likely get them answered early, right? As opposed to those who just ask them in the comments section on the right here. But that should be next week. So I apologize that Jake couldn't get here this week. That's why I didn't advertise Jake this week, because he was kind of on the fence all week. So hopefully JK Armament next week. Also, on top of that, right, the other companies out there that you guys want to see, I need to know who you want to see. I need you to reach out to those people and facilitate those types of things. The more help I can get from you guys, the more success we can have with our live streams as far as it goes from getting different companies and interviews on. I don't know everyone in the world, right? So, if there's a specific company, I might not know anyone there, but you know someone there, fan-fucking-tastic. We can get them on. So, this is all about you guys, who you want to see, and your help is going to be appreciated on that. But to get things started, Jack, thank you for being here every week. Chris, same to you. Chris from Suppressor Nation. If you guys don't follow him on Instagram, go check him out. Chris has really done a great job at kind of collectively cherry picking the best content off of social media and continuing to post it up for you guys. So, Chris, always glad to have you here. You make the streams better. For those who have shown up today, I know today was kind of, again, not necessarily anything too specialized or whatnot, but I have kind of cherry picked. I've got a bunch of cans sitting here, a couple rifles, and just stuff we're gonna talk about. To fill in. Plus, whatever questions you guys want. Topics are open. Whatever you guys want to talk about today, we can absolutely talk about, barring anything too crazy, right? Also, Jack's already asking a question. Jack, what do you got? Do you know Ryan's brother by any chance? Ryan, like Diligent Defense Ryan, or different Ryan? What Ryan? There's a lot of Ryans in the world. So who are you talking about? More than likely, since I can't think of a Ryan that I know that's got a brother, other than DDC Ryan, Dale, the answer's probably going to be no. But if you want to give me some context, that would be great. We had a big week. The fucking Queen of England died. Dead, kaput. A lot of feelings apparently around that. That was interesting. A lot of people were pretty hateful, from the colonization thing to, she's just an old hag thing. But if anyone has watched the TV show Crown, I mean, we're talking about like a little girl who, yes, she had a very privileged upbringing and whatnot. But you got to give it to the Queen of England. She saw a lot of fucking shit, man. And you got to remember that the Queen of England is a figurehead of their political thing. So a lot of decisions are not made by her. They're made by the prime ministers. So long story short, Queen of England, she's dead. May she rest in peace. I personally appreciated her. I'm a big history guy, so, unless you committed some genocide, I'm probably going to be cool with you, you know. Been a while. I've been out of service for a bit. Well, Tyler, thank you for making today's episode. Jack, yes, from DDC. No, I don't know his brother on like a personal sense. What do you want to know? I mean, do you want me to call him real quick and ask him something? I mean, what's it regarding? Speaking of D2C, how is the 556 coming along? So here's basically how our R&D process currently works, since we're doing the split country thing, right? I'm in the West Coast, headquarters is in the East Coast. So, I design a bunch of cans. I give my theories on, what we should be doing, what we should be testing. And then right now, Ryan then builds those cans, and then either Brandon and or Ryan eventually test those cans. I then get the WAV forms. That's the type of file that the sound data is, and then I process all that data, do what I do, and deliver results. Redesign from there what I think needs to be changed to hopefully get us to where we want to be. And that's kind of how the process works. Sounds really simple, super time consuming. When you're looking at full waveforms, it's really actually quite time consuming, because you've got to, first off, you have to take them and you have to transfer them into a set of software that you can then use to analyze them. You have to literally do every single shot one at a time. You've got to trim it down to get rid of all the pre-shot noise and the after-shot noise. You've got to calibrate it right from kilopascals, or from pascals to kilopascals. Um, you've got to then check the calibration, make sure that the changes you've made are good, and then you have to run software to analyze it, right? Which then gives us our inner-ear response, tells us, how loud every single shot was, how many shots we can shoot at that level, before we hit, our hearing damage threshold for a 24-hour period. Taking that, then graphing it, plotting it. It's a lot of work just to look at, let's say, 3 cans, right? I can spend the entire day doing nothing but that, just going through and looking at 3 cans. And the big flip side of this is with the shot move. I don't know if you guys saw, but the 8.6 Black Enticer is out, so that's been the primary focus. A few other like accessory type things have been the primary focus. The 22 can, we've been working on a 22 can, so that's kind of also been taking place. Now, some of that on the R&D side has been via 3D printing. And then we have to keep Enticer production up, right? So there's been no shortage of people who've wanted Enticers. Been a lot of orders coming in from dealers who want to put Enticers on the shelf. So, there's only so much, unfortunately, time and production capacity in the day. We got lots of machines, but it still takes that human behind everything to do it all. And, long story short, I don't have a timeline on when our 556 can will come out. It's not going to come out until we think it's right, obviously. You can be assured that when it does come out, it's going to be the best possible thing we can present that meets the manufacturing level of effort we want to put into it, right? I mean, you can do something like super crazy, okay? Look at like the Huxworks can, for example, very crazy inside design. They're getting good suppression. I feel like we can get that level of suppression or better without doing a lot of the things they've done, hopefully. So that's kind of the goal, to try to make something that we can keep very affordable for everyone. That's been a big one. So right now, if you're going to go buy a 556 can, what are you going to buy? What are your options? Turbo, the new Huxworks can, Sierra 5, Polonium, technically the new rugged can, and then you've got your legacy cans, your SOCOMs and your Surefire stuff, right? Everyone kind of defaults to that Surefire side. It's odd to me. I don't think they're that great of cans, but at the same time, the bar is super fucking low at this point in the 5.56 realm. Rugged can, pretty much disappointment in my opinion. Fast forward or rewind 2 years ago, that same can probably wouldn't have been a disappointment, right? Some of you guys, Silencer Co. I don't think Silencer Co. offers anything right now that I would say is anything better than what any of the other basic 5.56 cans is offering. So literally right now, I mean, for a 5.56 can, I think you're at Polonium and like Turbo, and that's it. Um, if you're going to only be shooting short barrels, then the Huxworks can definitely. Though you're also then married to just their muzzle devices, which I mean, that's got pluses and minuses to it as well, right? That style of design, it might not work as well with some other muzzle devices. So I mean, I guess that's okay then, right? But typically, I wouldn't probably recommend the Huxworks can unless you're shooting like 13-inch and under 5.56 ARs. So anything longer, I would definitely say probably Polonium. If you don't want to do Huxworks, I would say Tuna Polonium or Sierra 5 is probably a decent choice, but Turbo is probably your best bang for your buck, right? Um, it's just kind of an area that isn't really too exciting right now. Now, I have left out talking about the CGS cans. I think the Helios in a direct thread form is probably one of the best. But then again, you're stuck with direct thread. You can go Helios QD. I think it's kind of underrated based off of, yes, it didn't do like the best on Pew Science, but I do think you're still getting a lot of suppressor there. So that would be actually one of my top choices as well. But you're going to have a high price tag, and you're also looking at mounts. Very few options there. The beauty, though, of the Helios QD is Reardon does have their mount, and therefore you can use some of their short muzzle devices. So for me, that does help quite a bit, but not everyone, might like that or not. As far as the Brits go, she was a damn good queen. I mean, yeah, man. I mean, she's just a woman at the end of the day. A lot of people we forget that these people in these political figure positions are just literally that. They're people like you or I. Now, a lot of politicians in the U.S. are more or less scum of the earth. But when you get to like what the way that the monarchy works, I mean, these are just people who were born into these positions. They didn't necessarily go out looking for them. So it's a little bit different. But anyway, no, I just found out Ryan's brother makes my tubes. Well, you should get your tubes tied. Has anyone made a chart or table available that shows effectiveness of expansion chamber size versus caliber? Oh, I don't know how you would make that table. Okay. Um, Blast chamber is probably the most misunderstood main part of most suppressors. I would focus on two things when it comes to blast chamber size. How much distance is between the tip of your muzzle device to the tip of your first cone, and is it coaxial or not? That's pretty much it. Blast chambers are fairly inefficient use of space, okay? You've got the Helios, the Hyperion. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to reimagine how to better use that space. They did a decent job at that, absolutely. There's only so many creative solutions you can come up with, right? Blast chamber, while not an excellent use of length, it does though help delay cam pressurization, right? So we wanted to delay our back pressure as long as possible till the bolt cycles, but then we want to do what? We want to capture, slow everything down. So I mean, we've come up with some kind of sweet spots for the most part. Um, it's also going to greatly depend on what you're shooting. 300 blackout subs, totally different than something like 5.56. 5.56 tends to enjoy that larger pressure dump, but you still don't want to go too big either. And that's another mistake you see a lot of times. Then there's a flip side of this too, where we forget how important, or I wouldn't really say important if you're using the right materials. It's literally not important at all. But blast chamber size also affects erosion and abrasion on your first baffle as well. So, for instance, you've got some of the TBAC cans, right? Like the Dominus, really long blast chamber, big old tube. Those, even in titanium, handle crazy firing schedules because literally that first baffle is, first off, it's so far away from that jet coming out of the muzzle. So all that particulate matter is going to have a lot of time to slow down, burn up, and the heat is going to be able to decrease. The velocity that everything's traveling, the amount of pressure once that stuff does get to that first baffle or lower. So therefore, you can get away with things like titaniums in some applications you normally wouldn't be able to get away with. Um, is it a super efficient use of all that space in that can? Probably not. But if they can achieve a level of suppression with the rest of the can that is adequate for what their goals are, well, then it works, right? It's kind of the best of both worlds at that point. I mean, if you're looking for a chart just to kind of quickly get an idea of where you sort of should be, we've already done those on the Patreon. They're on the master post. But it's not there's no singular answer for every single application. Okay, there's a zillion combinations of mount, muzzle device, first baffle material, first baffle height and shape. Um, what you're shooting on. I mean, the combinations are endless, and all of those different combinations are going to have different absolute peak. Even can design is going to change this, right? Look at again some of like the CGS stuff, that how that changes what you're trying to do. What about the Echo 5x5? I think that Echo's 5x5 is more than likely an excellent choice as well. It's going to be a short suppressor at 5 inches. It's one of the few 5.56 suppressors I'm actively thinking about purchasing this year just to put on the channel because there's literally no data on it. And I think all of you guys would really like to see it. So it's on my mind. It's in my head. Now, wait times, of course, have gotten fucking stupid again. So that's a little bit difficult. Though I might be able to get one, transferred to well, I got the hiccups. Transfer to DDC and all of that, but we'll see. But it is one that's been on my mind, and I sometimes forget about it, right? Because it's not one of the big names that everyone refers to. One of the most disappointing things to me is going on Facebook and seeing like a post, what such and such can should I get, and then the bazillion like recommendations, because most of the recommendations suck. And even the ones that don't suck are typically being recommended for all the wrong reasons, if that makes sense. Like anyone who recommends a Nomad L for 5.56, while the Nomad L is a great can. I've got one in the safe right now. Love it. It's a 308. Like its sweet spot is going to be 308. That's what it does, or 6.5 Creedmoor, things of that nature, right? I wouldn't recommend it as a 5.56 can to go out and buy. But yet you'll see it constantly recommended. Will it work? Absolutely. Will you probably be happy with it? Can't say. Every person's different. Anyone who has little or not as ton of cans under their belt probably would be happy with it. I mean, everyone is happy with different things, right? It all depends on, If all you ever fucked was a big fat girl, you might only like big fat girls, right? But you might not know there might be better pussy out there. Maybe all you fucked is little skinny girls, and that's what you like. But maybe big fat girls feel good to you. You know, it's the same kind of thing, or cars, or whatever. People, this is how people work, right? It's all about what we know and have experienced that really dictates what we perceive as good or bad, and it's complex. And what is Nick's problem with Pew Science? I just ordered a 6.5-inch Aqualove to know what to expect. What is Nick's problem? Nick's problem. I mean, he doesn't have a problem. Um, I don't really want to speak for Nick. I think Nick understands that there is a danger of, and it's already kind of coming true. And this isn't to speak ill on Jay either. I don't think he set out to create um, a monster of any kind, but in some ways we're already seeing it, right? Where, like, let's say I put out my data on the RSP, right? And instead of people going, wow, that's amazing, that's great, a few people came back and said, well, I just want to see what Pew Science has to say about it. Like, Pew Science is the only place in the world who is qualified enough to test a suppressor. Jay does an excellent job, but he's not the only one with that type of equipment. He's not the only one with the ability to run inner earring. I can't speak. Sorry. Let's just say he doesn't have a monopoly on being able to tell if a can is good or not, but he does a good job at it. He gives you the data. It's up to you to kind of read between the lines and interpret it a lot of times. I guess what the problem is that monopoly thing, right? Where only people will buy suppressors that have been tested by Pew Science. Probably wouldn't be a problem if it was affordable, because it's not. It's super expensive, and if it was fast, right? So if you could, like let's say we come out with a suppressor tomorrow. Let's say DDC, we come out with a can tomorrow. It could take us 6 months before Pew might publish data on it if we needed to. So now we're at a point where a company might not be able to get people to buy their product, which could be amazing, without a giant lead time going into it, right? On top of all the lead time it takes for you to get your stamp already. The flip side of that is, if the review comes out and it's bad, well, then So we need to be able to have, like anything in life, multiple people being able to, look at cans and give us a honest, true evaluation. Um, but this type of work is extremely specialized. It's extremely expensive to do. So, I feel like, and not to toot my own horn, I feel like we do a really fucking fantastic job at it. And I think Jay does a really fantastic job at it. TBAC does a decent job at it. Their main goal, and I say decent because their main goal is to sell suppressors and to test their suppressors versus other people's stuff to compare them, not to put out data for you to make decisions about how to buy other people's stuff, if that makes sense. That isn't a dig on TBAC. I hope this makes sense. I hope it's coming across the right way. Um, but over time, I mean, and a lot of decisions get made off this too. Like, let's say results come out on a 308 suppressor, right? And we get 308 bolt gun results. Does that mean that can is going to work really well on 5.56, 300 blackout subs, 300 blackout supers, maybe longer barreled stuff, right? Versus shorter barrel stuff or whatnot. There's a lot of stuff that's left off in the nuance. A lot of it's hard to cover, and that's part of the reason why we test the way we do, right? We always try to test 3 calibers on every single can right off the bat to give us that ability to look at how it works different. So, for example, if you go right now to my rankings charts and you look at Nomad L, like we were talking about before, you're going to see how great it does on something like 308 bolt gun. You're going to see how mediocre it kind of is at 300 blackout subs. I say mediocre to mean that it's mediocre on the cans compared to some of the cans we've tested. There can still be a million Form 4s out there that are louder than Nomad L. But on our particular set of very high performing cans, it falls, let's say, below the median. Still great, still gonna love it, still sounds good when I go shoot it on 300 blackout subs, right? But there's better designs. Many of those are Form 1 designs. They're not Form 4 cans. Most, actually 90% of them are Form 1 designs, okay? And we'll do more Form 4 cans as we go. I'm trying not to do too many because, again, that's kind of Pew Science's arena. But we want them there to kind of compare designs. My main goal is suppressor research, right? Understanding what design does what on what. That's my main goal. Not so much trying to figure out what to, I want to retract. I don't want to fully say what I was about to say. So let's just leave it at that. Lots of cans out there. Many of them you'll probably be absolutely happy with. Probably wouldn't know the difference to one to the other unless you've shot the other one, right? Or had experience with the other one, or know what a even better one sounds like, right? You come in right now and you buy a Ford Mustang with a V6 and it's the only Mustang you've ever driven. It might be fantastic for you, right? To give you an analogy, but then you go get a GT500 with 700 horsepower and suddenly your perspective changes. It's all perspective. Everything is perspective. You can be happy with one thing initially and eventually be unhappy with it, or vice versa. It's just how the world fucking works. So Nick, to kind of circle all the way back around, I think he's worried about monopoly. He's worried about, you know, that someone has, I think, a lot of power. I mean, let's be honest, I have a lot of power. Sometimes I feel like I have a lot of power, right? We all have to trust the people who have that power, though. So you either have to trust me or trust Jay or trust whoever, or you don't. It's up to you, It just depends. Nick makes a good can. Nick makes kind of a traditional style of can, but he can makes with combinations of progressive spacing, variable geometry, right? So we can get extra cones and larger tip spacing in a lot of places. He does a very good job at making a very solid product. Will there possibly be a better can out there than what that can is, for example, or whatever Recore is? This year or last year, I mean, we've had a lot of advancements in suppressor stuff. So yeah, sure, there's probably from a sound perspective, but at the same time, Nick does a great job at super tight tolerances, quality control, welds. I mean, the dude does fantastic welding, right? Versus a mass-produced can. So I mean, there's a lot of upsides too in other categories. Everyone has a different take. I would never hesitate to buy one of Nick's cans. I know I'd be getting a solid product. Would one other thing maybe meter better or whatnot? Absolutely. Would some designs coming out in the future be even better? Sure. But he does a great job, especially if you're needing a recore, you know. Um, so hopefully that makes all sense. I don't know how well I tied it all in. If you truly have questions about Nick's opinions on things, Nick is an extremely open person. You can ask him. And for those, Nick is Echo Machine. I don't know if you know that or not, but okay. So long question. Current 5.56 can is 1.5 OD, very typical for 5.56. We're dealing with some fairly high exit pressures, but typically not a ton of gas volume. We're dealing with more gas volume than something like 300 blackout supers, but nothing near like 308 or anything like that. So anyway, that for those who don't know too, it takes pressure and gas volume a lot of times to make some of our designs and our baffle shapes work. But anyway, long question. Current 556 cans, 1.5 OD, 7 Dinos, so single step 50s, progressively spaced board to 0.22. Well, I hope it's bigger than 0.22, my friend. You're shooting a bullet that's 0.23, and you need 50 thou at least, typically, of overbore. So, I mean, a typical 5.56 bore needs to be at least 265. But anyway, with narrow clips, in general, how much gas from the injection port can be eliminated by opening up one clip? Well, I mean, you're not giving me any real numbers here on what your definition of narrow is, but quite a bit. I mean, clips, think of clips like valves. They control the flow rate of the can, and that is super important. Okay. So, super narrow clip, you're not really getting a whole lot out of it. You're just more or less getting, probably a portion of the performance you could potentially get out of it. Um, Typically, a starting place is going to be like a 2x2 or bigger, right? So some of the five, if I was going to make a 5.56 can right now, I mean, it'd probably have at least a 2x250, depending on the baffle type. Okay, and that particular baffle type, I would probably be at least a 2x250 on my clips, and that's a starting place. I believe it's one of Echo Machine's cans, if I remember right. Clips are roughly 158 by 220. Yeah, I think that's too narrow. I think that's fine for 22 long rifle, but 5.56, I think that's too narrow. Okay, we're caught up on questions. So we're going to do something a little bit different this week. We are going to first talk about what we did this week. So what did we do this week? This week we had dose videos. First one ended up being pretty interesting, right? We did Hyperion, which is 9.5 inches long, 175 OD, and then we have to run this adapter, right, to be able to do the half by 28, which is going to have, let me go back to kind of the full screen here, which is going to have this tip on it, right, with this kind of diffuser holes or whatnot. So, we modeled up and looked at, okay, where do these diffuser holes dump in relation to our first cone and our coaxial area? Spoiler alert, they're perfectly placed to hopefully help push gas into our coaxial area. Basically, I wanted to look at, when we have a can this long and this big on 5.56, compared to all of the other 5.56 tests we've done this year, which has been, at least I think 12 or 13 different cans, where would it fall on our ranking, especially with this extremely unique internal design? It would also tell us what Helios is basically the same thing. Okay, 30 cal bore, same layout and everything, just shorter and less cones. So we can easily go, okay, Helios should probably perform, because again it's shorter, less well than even this would perform. So we kind of get a little bit of a two birds, one stone, and we get an idea where it falls. And it did well, but it wasn't number one or anything like that. And we had a little bit of sparking, especially on our first round. We looked at that, and that's where we left it. So one more data point, another coaxial can to look at that we got on our ranking. I really like CGS. They're one of my favorites out there. Um, so anytime I can get a chance to kind of put a CGS can in any of our rankings, I'm going to typically take it. Then that gets us to today's video, which was this one. So this was me getting feedback from you guys. You guys said, hey, it's time to probably test 300 Blackout Supers and get familiar with some of the cans we've done as of late on 300 Black Supers and see how they're performing compared to everything else. I totally agreed with you guys. So, I selectively chose some very specific cans. I chose, we've been doing a lot of stuff with high gas capture storage and porting vented, what I call selective venting, right? Trying to adapt our flow rates inside of our suppressors to purposely limit first round pop, but gain more flow rate while gaining suppression on some things too. So while we had done multiple cans like our vented and then our DAP, our dual angle pocket cone vented as well, another vented can, Hyperion with its very unique, coaxial design, its long length, its bigger diameter, our LN can with its super long rear cones, with its very deep clips in the distal portion. Four very distinct types of flow rates and can builds, right? Where would they fall when we shot something like 300 Blackout Supers? We've got a 300 Blackout Subs data, we got 556 data, we got 308 data, but 300 Blackout Supers, right? They kind of straddle this weird zone. We're looking at twice the powder, but typically the same types of powders as 300 Blackout Subs. So we go from, a powder charge in like let's call it the 9 to 10s, something in the 60s on the burn scale, which is pretty fast, whether it be something slower like CFE Black or something all the way up to H110. And then jumping to what? 556. Now you're looking at typically powder charges in the mid 20s ish. You're looking at powders like CFE 223, which I think is what, 111 on the burn scale? So much slower burning. So when we're shooting those same barrel lengths, like we are shooting, shorter barrel lengths, the kind of most severe situations, what do these same cans do versus in those two scenarios? And then, of course, we have our 308 as well, but that's not going to play nearly as much as a part, being bolt gun and just extreme amounts of powder in comparison to some of these others. And the results ended up being quite fascinating, actually. And I'm super glad we did this test. And in fact, now I'm probably going to repeat it, maybe add one more suppressor and do the same thing on 762 by 39 now. Um, the results gave us something that we really could learn from. And it was very interesting to see which can was the best can and how the order of ranking, really changed. Made a ton of sense too. It was pretty cool. So if you haven't yet got a chance to watch that video today, I definitely freaking suggest watching it. It was a good one. I didn't necessarily go into it thinking I knew it was going to be fun. I knew it was going to be good to get our some more 300 Blackout Supers data, but I didn't expect it to have as much learning value. All right. So what else are we talking about here? Joe, are you affiliated with Diligent Defense and how all it? Yes, I am technically affiliated with Diligent Defense. I help them design cans and make recommendations, things of that nature. Um, for those who don't know, even though I've talked about it a million times, the beauty of why I chose Diligent Defense was that they were completely on board with me continuing to do what I already do, and there was no strings attached. No, you've got to recommend our cans. Literally no strings attached. Just help us make better cans. That was it. Literally it. If anything, they're like, how can we help you to better the things you do? As far as the future of the relationship. So I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer to kind of team up a little bit, right? So no quid pro quo, anything like that. If I don't like one of their cans, I have no reason to say that it's a good can or not can. No reason. So you'll hear me recommend pretty much anyone's cans. I try to recommend exactly what I think is best for any situation. So that is the disclaimer or whatever you want, the backstory. Would you clip 45 cal rifle the same as 45 pistol? Looking for clips on a 4570. So 4570, just like we were just talking about a 300 blackout, right? First thing to do whenever you're building a suppressor is literally look at what you're trying to suppress. Is it, in this case, it's probably lever action, right? So no bolt cycling. So we're talking about all of our noise being generated from the muzzle end of things. That frees up some freedoms in design. So you have two predominant styles of design. You have flow through, something kind of in between, or you have a more traditional gas trap, right? Just trying to trap and hold gas as much as possible for as long as possible. So 45 ACP, you're what? You're shooting it probably on handgun, maybe a carbine, so semi-automatic, fully automatic, whatever. There you're going to be focused more on the out of your side. You're going to be focused more on increasing your flow rate, or I should say delaying, having as much initial flow rate, and then turning to a gas trap is really what you want to do. So you're talking about tremendously less powder. You're talking about barrel lengths that are much shorter. So to get to like your clip question, I mean, on 4570, you're looking at a pretty big clip. And again, it's going to depend on the baffle, but a starting place would be that 250 to 250, but you're more than likely going to be pushing that out to something like 250 by 280, 250 by 275, somewhere in kind of that realm. Any tips on keeping a Thunder Chicken from carbon locking onto a cherry bomb? My Form 1s with the cherry bomb mount lock up also after 100 rounds or so. Well, I can explain exactly why that happens. First off, we got probably 2 or 3 videos. I think I even made one public. It's on YouTube right now, so if you want to go Silence the Student and look, you'll find it there, public. But it has to do with the design of how they made the taper. Okay, they're pretty much every mount suffers from the exact same thing, and that is you've got, even when you have taper before threads, you've got the taper being accessed extremely easily by what's going on inside the suppressor, right? Any type of dirt on the taper is going to have it not sealed properly. You leave it a little loose, not going to seal properly, whatnot. You're exposing it to a lot of pressure too, so you have to get that taper to mate right. Any type of imperfections in the machine work, that's going to be a problem. Types of surface finishes. Are you mixing, materials? For instance, you've got, typically with cherry bomb, you've got 17.4 raw on a 17.4 raw mount, so that tends to get locked up a little bit. Reardon set out to try to solve as much as those things as they can. So, I mean, if I might have one right here in front of me. Those are buffers. Hold on. I think it's in the other room, but here's your regular plan. You've got a Gen 2 Plan B first off, and a Gen 1 Plan B, and how they both do things. But see where this is. Reardon went out and they put an extra piece there to shield your taper. Then they went and they said, okay, we need to have better quality control. Then they went a step further and said, okay, we need to stop mixing materials, or I should say, stop using the same types of materials. So then they started introducing nitride on muzzle devices. So that way you would have a raw mount and a nitride muzzle devices. Then they took it even further and went to nitriding the mounts. Then they took it even further and went to PVDing the muzzle devices. A PVD muzzle device, first off, it wipes off so fucking clean. It's great. Second off, whether you put it in a raw mount or a nitride mount, the damn thing is not going to get stuck. It's just not going to happen unless you user error, left it loose, something along that nature. PVD and nitride, you do have to get it a little bit tighter, but still nothing more than just hand tight. It's literally amazing. I've been shooting. So what I've done is, I shoot at least 3 rifles a week. Okay. They have a mix of nitride, PVD, and raw muzzle devices. And then all of my cans have a mix of nitride and raw mounts. So, I mean, I've been able over the last 6 months to notice what the kind of combinations are, what they do best, which ones are the easiest to work with. It's been really fascinating. The one thing you don't want to do, and which is why Reardon doesn't have a PVD Atlas, is mix PVD to PVD. It's going to get probably stuck more than likely. The 2 surface finishes are just so exacting, so smooth. They literally, if you've ever taken gauge blocks and put 2 gauge blocks together, it's like that, right? Now imagine a taper under, high clamping pressure. It's going to get stuck, right? It's going to do its job too well. So basically, go watch that video. What you can do is a lot of maintenance on those 2 muzzle devices. Okay, keeping the taper on the mount, and technically I don't think it's a mount. I'm pretty sure those are the Thunder Chicken has got the built-in taper into the can, but same kind of deal. And keeping the cherry bomb clean. Now, if I can grab a cherry bomb, I'll tell you which parts to clean. This area in front of the taper needs to be clean. But that's the thing. So all that the mount makes contact with is pretty much a little bit on the Gen 2s. The Gen 2s are a little better than the Gen 1s, which if your Thunder Chicken's older, it's going to be Gen 1 style. But basically, it's just making contact right here. So the best thing you can do is make sure those are clean. Scotch-Brite pad, a little bit of degreaser to get them clean. Get any carbon off of them. Just a little touch of anti-seize. I'm talking like a pin prick. Take the tip of a pin, tip it in a little anti-seize, put it in probably 3 spots, run your finger around it. That's it. That's all you need to do, and make sure you always get it tight, but just fingertip tight, right? Like grab the can from your 3 fingers like this and just spin it on. You do not want to do this number with it, or it's going to get stuck. End of the day, you're better off probably switching to a PVD muzzle device from Reardon. Still not going to be perfect because the mount is lacking some of the features it really needs to eliminate a lot of the problems that do come up. Still, the original plan B like that is still better than 85% of the mounting systems out there, in my opinion. But the Atlas system really solves kind of pretty much everything. A redesign of the Atlas system, scaling it up a little bit and changing maybe to a left-hand thread is pretty much something that's kind of been thought and talked about, but if you do it all right, it really isn't even necessary, though, to match barrel profiles. But now they've come out with their new muzzle devices that match the bull barrel profiles. So obviously going into the larger thread types, though, that's been a challenge. So that's like your 8.6 blacks and your things going up from there. The resonator seems too well on 300 Super, and the spacing isn't what I'd expect at all. Resonator should be a basic, decent shoulder, What's it? I believe it's a 60, not a 50, if I remember right. And it should be static spacing, if I remember right. It should be 10 cones in the full size configuration, 9 or 10. It's basically on something like 300 blackout supers or 300 blackout subs should work really well. I would say the resonator is where the bar on Form 4 cans should start, and anything that performs less good than that is basically junk, in my opinion. Things should perform as good as that or better, especially when you factor in like the price point you can get, some of the YHM cans for. So like that's one of my big pet peeves with Silencer Central, right? You're super overpaying for that suppressor, super overpaying for it. Banish Gold, well over what I think $1,400, $1,600 is literally a resonator inside for the most part. Some changes, 3 times the fucking price. It's crazy. I'm sorry, but I literally hate the Banish cans. Not because they don't work, but just because what they represent, what they cost, um, the lack of some of the features that you should be getting if they do cost that much. Like literally, the only good thing I can say is that depending on what state you're in, the ship to your door and the financing is that Capital Armory can finance you. Capital Armory can ship to your door in a lot of states and growing. So hopefully, Capital eventually grows to be just as many states as Silencer Central, and then literally there's zero reason to ever buy a Banish can again. Silencer Central sells more than Banish cans, so I'm not talking every can on Silencer Central. I'm talking specifically the gold and the regular. Just anything Banish, I would never buy. That's my opinion. There's almost certainly something better and cheaper with more flexibility in it out there. And I know it sounds like a dick, and someone would probably send that to Silence Central, but it's the truth. I mean, what can you do? I have two form ones I'm waiting on 6 and 7.5 tie 1 and 5 OD. What type of recommendations do you have? As I would like to dedicate one to 556. This is easy. Go on to our ranking video, our most recent ranking video. Look at 556 ranking, see what's number one, and watch that entire series because you'll be able to make even a better can than even that can is if you do. And that's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I'm going to do here at some point. Both have a 2.5-inch BC, but that's all. No cups yet, just ideas. Post literally that entire series, which I put on the master post. Yeah, I'll show it to you. Fuck it, why not? Shit, did I pass it? I think I passed it. Bro, we just have so much stuff now, it's crazy. So here's where the ranking videos start. So this would be like the most up-to-date ranking video. But there's a section of videos that literally anyone who's going to build a suppressor or wants to understand suppressors should literally watch. And it is right here. Baffle venting, porting, blah, 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 high gas capture storage cones. This entire series taught me so much about flow rates in cans, baffle stagnation, things of that nature. I would literally watch all of this series because it's eye opening, to say the least. Yes. Don't know why anyone would buy it this day and age. 2 years ago, absolutely. Today, I have no idea why anyone would buy the Omega 9K. Yet, if you go on Reddit or Facebook, a million people are going to recommend it to you. I have no idea why anyone would buy an Osprey either. Not a fucking clue. You want a 9mm can? This is the 9mm can you want. Or this one. Either one of these. These are what you want. RSP, RS9, resilient suppressors. You want a shorter version? I mean, this one's already at 6.8 inches. You want something even shorter? That's great. It's coming. Or look at the Otter Creek Labs lithium. I mean, literally the Omega series and the Octane series is just a regular kind of radial cone, which is fine, and that's it. I mean that was great, and it's been great, and it works well for many years. But things have moved on since then, and you can get even better at the same side of price points or better. So why continue to buy? Why can it's like a 2000 Civic, right? I love my 2000 Civic, but if I can buy something better for the exact same price with the same longevity and the same reliability, why would I still buy it other than nostalgia? And if nostalgia is your thing, that's fine. Go buy it. Unless, like, companies aren't going to make better and newer cans unless people stop buying the existing can, right? Why would you? If let's say Enticer right now with TDC, if we sell a zillion enticers and no one ever stops buying our enticer, what is the incentive for us to make you a new enticer, an updated, more higher performing enticer? What is the incentive? Out of the goods of our heart as business owner, like as a business, no, of course not. It boggles my mind some of the decisions people make, and I get it. If you're not like super into suppressors, right? A lot of this stuff's going to be right over your head, right? You're not even going to understand that there are like these performance gaps and all these different things, or what to even look for. I totally get that, right? So, and I think that's kind of the problem is a lot of people come in to the market and they either look for like big names or they make a post and people recommend kind of the same cans over and over. Like if you're buying a can because the warranty is really good, I mean, what does that tell you? Like that tells you what? That a lot of people had to warranty their fucking can? Is that good? Like if I had to warranty my Kia a million times and Kia has a 100,000 mile warranty, does that make Kias like really good? Now they've gotten better, don't get me wrong, going back to car analogies. But does that mean that like that's a better choice than say a Toyota fucking Camry? Same kind of thing, you know. Of course, everyone should have a good warranty. Everyone should just have that. Like that shouldn't be like what decides buying a can. That should just be like a given. Like you should just have a good warranty and be easy to deal with on warranty. That should just be like a normal. You should be valuing the can on how much it cost originally versus how much suppression you're getting versus will it work on what you're trying to use it on. That's what, to me at least, is how I would choose a can. Here are the parameters I want. I want this for suppression. I want to be able to shoot it on this, and I want this for maybe flash suppression. My price range is this. The warranty thing, that should be just a given. Like, of course, it should have warranty that if something happens and it's warrantable, it's just taking, like, I don't know. I guess my point is when I hear people recommend a can because the warranty is good, that does nothing for me personally. I think it's an awful reason to buy a suppressor. Same with no barrel restrictions because it's a gimmick, it's a lie, right? For a 30 cal Form 1 can used on 5.56 300 blackout and 308 semi auto platforms, would you suggest progressive or static spacing? Not super. Like if static is all you're comfortable doing, not a big fucking deal at all. The bigger deal is going to be calculating what the minimum space is between whatever cone design you use. To refer you to, I mean, any of the videos we've done where I build a suppressor are going to go into kind of how to do that. Um, the benefits of progressive spacing come in when we talk about cone count more than anything. That and when you start mixing types of cones, that's where the benefits really start to come in quite a bit. Or on shorter cans, that's where the benefits come in. Shorter cans are where the benefits come in probably the most, right? Shorter can, you start going progressive, you get to pick up possibly an extra cone or two cones depending on the design, right? Without sacrificing some things in some other areas. The big mistake that a lot of people make is going too large on the spacing in some spots, typically in the proximal end, and going too tight sometimes in the distal end. Um, you also already have to have a very decent idea of where you're going to be clipping from a depth perspective to start trying to make those decisions. But if you're really unsure about all these types of things, right, and don't really get it, come up, just do a static space can, but try to figure out what is probably the best static space length. You don't want too big, you don't want too short, you know. Half inch is going to work great on some cones, not so much on possibly other cones. The answer is probably going to be anywhere depending on if a 9 millimeter can, that static space answer might be 4.5 or 5. On a rifle can, depending on the cone, it could be 6.5. It could be 5. It's gonna. There's Form 1 for a long time, and I'm guilty of it myself because I didn't always understand things as well as I do today. Every day we understand things more than we did yesterday, right? We get very, there's this kind of mindset that that you can't like adapt, and that's just so wrong, right? You know, um, you're looking basically to put the most amount of cones in a can without making the back pressure in that can or the flow rate of that can too restrictive. Basically, I mean that's what it comes down to. Is Form 1 can still viable due to the douchery of Alphabet Boys? Not done any since this shit hit the fan. I saw Sub-Zeros making cups and seems like most quality parts again. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't use a cup unless I specifically sent that cup to the ATF and said, here's the cup I'm planning on buying. Okay. And they said, sure. Other than that, it's a no. Personally, for me, it's a no dice. Um, I have much higher probably level of risk tolerance, or I should have a much lower level of risk tolerance than maybe a lot of other people out there. Okay, I am dead set on trying to make sure I stay in between the fucking goalposts, wherever those fucking goalposts may be on any given day with the ATF. The bar moves constantly. We all know that. It doesn't matter if we're talking Form 1s or Form 4s or just owning a fucking rifle in general. The bar is ever moving. And that's the shittiest part, right? Because we're all trying to do the right thing, or what's perceived as the right thing. Let me rephrase. We're all trying to be law abiding citizens. We all should be law-abiding citizens. But yeah, again, the bar moves constantly, right? In a very unfair way. We should all fight that. I'm not really one of the people who thinks one or two people breaking the rules is going to change anything. I think that's only going to get you in jail. Now, if I'm 3 or 20 or 50 million people were breaking the rules, that'd be a little bit different. But unfortunately, I think we all know at this point that the gun community is never going to do that. So I think we're better off trying to fight through voting, writing our congressmen. Whether I know a lot of people think that's fucking worthless, and you know what? I get it. I've written them a million times, and every time you get a reply, and it's a canned, pre-made letter or whatnot. Um, I really think where you really make the difference is going to political events or whatnot. If tomorrow a million gun owners were outside Congress having a very peaceful protest, again peaceful protest where it couldn't get spun, the narrative couldn't get spun on us, I think that would be super meaningful. But how many of us don't live paycheck to paycheck who could afford to take a week off and fly off to Washington, D.C. and risk our freedom? I mean, that's where the slippery slope is, and that's why it's so hard to affect change in any direction, right? So getting back to kind of the NFA stuff, so far I can tell you this: I have multiple stamps I've never built. I have stamps I've built since then. I've machined the stuff, or I've used things like freeze plugs and things of that nature. And I've specifically said to the ATF, when I submitted the stamp, these are what I want to use. Is this okay? You I haven't needed to submit a stamp since then to try to use something else. Hopefully, other people have. The best thing people could be doing is those who are getting approvals on Form 1s should hopefully be sharing with everyone, okay, I'm using such and such as stuff, and I literally sent that stuff and got approved for it, right? That sets a tone, that sets a standard, that sets a narrative, right? That sets this is the norm, this is the playing field. You've said okay to use this, so have you said it to this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. Okay. That's how we change things, and that's how we figure out where the line in the sand is. Um, Without that, there's another crowd that thinks, just tell them you're going to use your lathe and make a can. Fuck it, who cares? Will you get away with that? You might. You probably will. More than likely, statistically, absolutely. Is it doing the community or anyone else or even yourself any favors? Probably not. It's a tough one to answer, but I don't know what the future holds. I think we all hope that things get better, not worse. But again, unless we try to find out what is okay and what isn't okay, we really can't know. And there's going to be a ton of debate already on what is or isn't. If anything is center marked, you already basically know that's not okay. Doesn't So that's the thing. Center markings are a joke, in my opinion. I even had this conversation with an ATF agent. It's like, look, do you realize most of the things you call center marks are nothing more than, you've got a spinning piece of material on your lathe or mill or whatever, and you're parting it off, and that's where it parts off from, and it leaves a mark. Is that a center mark, or is it a dimple from going and machining? What is a center mark? Even that is a question, right? Um, I think there's a lot of things that they would lose in court, but unfortunately, they continue to stack the deck when they do go to court, right? They hit you not with just X, Y, or Z, but they give you the whole alphabet soup of what you've supposedly done wrong, and they force your hand. The amount of power they have is fucking scary. I mean, it's scary. So I prefer to be cautious. And you might not. You might have a totally different set of feelings, and that's fine. I mean, you do you. So as far as what Form 1 you're going to make, I would either get approval for what you want to actually use, or machine it from 100% scratch. Or you make something, right, that maybe isn't up to the standards you want, and then send it out for recore and have it record legally through the recore process. That's how I do the vast majority of my stuff now. I take an older can, and it's time for updating it anyway. So let's send it out, recore it. Here's how I want it. What can we do? And here's exactly what spacing I want and clipping I want. And try to walk that line of, okay, this is what's acceptable. Even then, who knows? I mean, they can move the bar at any point, any time of the day. That's just part of being a gun owner, an NFA owner, whatever. It sucks. It sucks. And it might keep you up at night. It can keep me up at night, that's for sure. So, I don't know. Hopefully, this whole little thing here I've just said helps somebody, stay out of trouble. Okay. All right. So we are caught up on questions. So now I might be able to get to some of the stuff I had planned here. So I wanted to talk about a little bit because I got questions, and some of them are ones I couldn't really answer like on a text that would probably make sense. So here is our 762 by 39. You guys saw it on Instagram. It's nothing special at all. It's just meant to literally test suppressors. That's why I built it. It's an arrow lower, SBR'd. Even though you see the brace, it is SBR'd. Same kind of fucking thing. I'm not playing the whole amnesty game or waiting for whatever. I SBR'd the goddamn thing. I might SBR a few more things before all this, because if they do the damn amnesty thing, you goddamn know that shit's going to get overloaded and you're not going to get approved for God knows how long on certain stuff. It's already screwed up. It's already backed up. Look how far backed up they are on Form 4s already. It's disgusting. I've gotten a few February Form 4s for my personal stuff, and that's it. I haven't seen another one since, and I was told by my local FFL that I was literally the only one out of anyone who got a February thing for this particular location. So that tells you just how screwed up they are, and that was months ago. I mean, look back at how long ago I did the Obsidian videos and the Mod 9 videos. It was before even those videos, okay? Because I shot those cans, because those were some of the ones I got approved. I shot those for another probably, few weeks to a month before I even put out the videos, right? So it's been pretty much stagnant on the whole FFL or forums getting approved things. So I'm not down to play the game if I don't absolutely have to. But I want to talk about this because I made some posts, and getting this thing to run right was a fucking bear. Some of the reasons were my own fault, and some of the reasons were the fault of just how 760 by 39 shit tends to be. And then some of it was also the manufacturer of this upper's fault, right? They did a pretty poor job on a few things. So I want to kind of show you guys all of it. But basically, I mean, I had the lower already. I built everything. But Tyler, he owed me some cash at the time. And I said, get me a 762 by 39 upper in exchange, we'll call it square. So he got me this one. I want to say it's like, what's that, grid defense or some shit. Nothing again special, So anyway, this week I put off, and here's what we can do. So we finally can share my cell phone screen. So we'll be able to share like videos and pictures and stuff and make this haul a little bit better. So share. All right. So if you see, we get rid of Chad's little question here. You can see on my Instagram where I showed a couple videos down here at the bottom because I got excited the other day while I was out at the range testing some stuff that this damn thing finally fucking worked. So I don't know if there'll be audio or not. If these will play. Oh. So we got subs to run, right? And then, actually, before I even play that, let's do this. So here's what I did. I wanted this thing to be able to run everything subs and supers. That makes it kind of a little bit specific, right? So subs are going to require a lot more gas to cycle the bolt versus supers. The other thing I wanted it to be able to do, I wanted it to be able to run a wide range of cans, right? It's a test host. So I needed to be able to tune this fucking thing on a can that has a reasonable delay on the buildup of back pressure. So I used MAD. Why did I use MAD? Well, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar, but I will show you MAD real quick. It's got a large BC and it has a coaxial BC scavenge. So let me pull up AutoCAD real quick. We'll remove this, stop sharing screen, share screen. We want AutoCAD, share. Okay, we want MAD. Where's MAD? MAD's right there. All right, let me just make sure you guys can see this right. Yeah, you can. Okay, cool. So MAD has a big blast chamber, right? Big old thing. It's like 3 inches total when we measure it from end of tube to the coaxial area right here. The other thing is okay, so imagine that gas. It's going. I don't think I can screen draw. I don't think you guys can see that, but I'm going to do it anyway just in case you can. But anyway, it's going to have this coaxial area. So a lot of gas is going to be able to go up and into this full length coaxial area. Now, it doesn't have fluid polarity with the rest of the stack, but still, this means that, as our jet comes out of the muzzle, we've got a ton of volume at 1750D. It's just going to take a long time for this to pretty much fully pressurize and create, our peak, whatever back pressure it's going to be for the can and flow rate. So in theory, if subs can run on this particular suppressor, I should more or less be able to run any suppressor and get subs to run on it without changing any of the gas settings. So that's why I chose this particular suppressor, if that makes sense, hopefully. The flip side to this is that means we're going to have our gas block open as much as possible to run this particular can. Our gas port, is fairly large, but we're going to retune it back down and choke it back off with our gas block. That's the point. So before we first get this rifle, right, and we go out and we assume it's a built upper, right? So everything should be good. I don't look at it at all. I literally pulled the bolt carrier group out. I threw some oil on it. I stuck it back in. I had an adjustable gas block, a shitty one, to be honest with you. It was like a shitty Strike Industries one, that click adjustable one. Fucking ended up being total garbage. I never used it before. But this is a budget gun, right? We literally got a cheap upper and everything. I threw it on the barrel, and I went out and I took a bunch of buffers and springs and stuff. And I even did a video and shot a bunch and tried to see what would run. For those who haven't aligned a gas block before, pretty much any gas block is not going to, of course, sit up against the shoulder. I don't know how many people know that or not. It could be all of you, it could be none of you. But trying to align gas blocks can be a bit of a pain in the ass to get the port perfectly aligned. So one thing I recommend for those who might not have one, you can buy like these test long borescopes that you can hook up to your computer for like pretty cheap off like Amazon. Worth its weight in gold. You can get the pistol length one. It'll work for most things for what you're trying to do. But basically, you can, through USB cable and your already camera you've got, I don't know how many people have seen these or not. I know they've been around for a while, but you can take and put your little adapter end, and these make aligning your gas block super easy to get 100% alignment. You go into the end of the barrel and you thread it in until you just get to the gas port. You'll see it on the computer screen, and you'll be able to sit there and get your gas port perfect. So that's probably one of the most key things on 760 by 39 is trying to get that gas port as perfect as possible. You want no occlusion at all. The second thing is to use a gas block that doesn't suck. So let me show you what I was working with and what I'm talking about. So your gas block, even like your superlative arms or whatnot, whatever, they're gonna leak a little bit. Pretty much. Can I grab a barrel? Would a barrel help? Probably would. So little leaks on gas systems matter way more than we give credit. It's actually kind of amazing how important they really are to get good seals. So your typical gas journal, right? You've got a gas port. You're already going to have to stick your borescope down here and try to find perfect alignment. It's not going to be up against the shoulder. It's going to be somewhere around 39, 40, 45, depending, on thou off of the shoulder. You also have to do this, right? You can't get it too cocked left or right. So that's like numero uno super importo. Okay. The second thing is already your standard gas block. Again, I mean, this is a slip fit, right? It's not a super. You want it to be as precision as possible, but you're using a mass-produced gas block, no matter who you're buying it from. Typically, a mass-produced barrel, probably two different manufacturers, right? So no matter what you think, I mean, especially when you can slide it on this easy, and you get it all set and everything, no matter what, you're going to get a little bit of leakage around the barrel, both sides. Pretty much unavoidable. Okay. At least on something like this, not too huge of a deal. Pretty much impossible to really get it like perfect. Okay. Fix it. But when you go and use something like these fucking other click adjustable ones that are made up a bunch of different pieces and stuff, I mean, imagine this. This piece literally just sits in here like this. There's a detent that kind of holds it, and you click and move it to adjust it, right? So what do you think this thing does? I mean, these aren't precisionally fit pieces. This thing leaked like a son of a bitch. And again, even a small leak is going to lose you quite a bit of your available pressure energy, let's call it, to cycle your bolts. Okay, so that's like number one is getting a gas block that doesn't leak like a bitch. You're not going to be able to see it with you. If you go and you look at it and you can see carbon kind of coming out in certain places, that's the problem you're trying to solve. So then the other thing, and the biggest thing, was okay, so now I'm trying to do all these buffer combinations. I'm trying to give it more gas. I end up opening up the gas port because with subs, it's not wanting to cycle. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I need even more gas to get this thing to go, right? Doesn't matter that I've gone to a really light buffer. Doesn't matter that I've gone to a pretty light fucking spring. Doesn't want to cycle everything. All right. So then I finally do what I should have done from like day one. And that is honestly look at this upper that I bought. And I feel stupid about it that I didn't from the very beginning. Like, you buy something and you think, okay, it should be good. But I never literally looked inside the upper receiver or the inside of the barrel to see, how this thing looked. And I'm going to show you the pictures because it's going to make a lot of sense. And then we'll talk about why it's important. I just got to find them here. Isn't it amazing how many pictures we fucking have on all of our phones? Especially me, apparently. All right, we're getting close. Where's that? Oh, here we go. Okay. So we want to share my screen. So look at the thing. Do you imagine your bullet coming up, hitting this bottom of this lower receiver, or this upper receiver, I'm sorry, then trying to get up into this feed ramp that's all mangled to hell and looks awful, which then has to push up into this chamber? That is going to take a lot of energy. That is going to use up a lot of energy. So that was the big problem that I found with mine, was that this was just so mangled and shitty that I was using up all of my energy from my gas port, my gas, cycling my bolt to basically try to overcome this complication. And I felt absolutely totally freaking retarded once I finally looked in there because it was just like, well, duh. I can't believe this thing is this bad type of thing. So that was the first thing I had to overcome. And if I can find the pictures, I'll show you how it came out. Go back to screen share. So this is basically like a really shitty look, but I smoothed it all out. I ended up, cutting the upper receiver so it had a nice ramp in. This is kind of hard to see, but it was hard to get kind of the light in there and whatnot so you could see. But this literally solved my problems. Now suddenly things were willing to run when we talk about subs. So voila, okay, that's freaking great. But what next? So what next is, okay, well, now we suddenly go from having this lighter spring that we needed to use, this lighter buffer that we needed to use, this bigger gas port we needed to use, which is unfortunate that we opened it up already. If we would have found, this problem beforehand, we probably wouldn't have needed to open it up as far as we did. But whatever, gas block will choke it off. No big deal. We've switched to a much better gas block. Okay, now we've got, I want to say, what did I end up putting on it? I put on I didn't put on a superlative, but I put on just a the hell is that other brand? Fuck, I cannot remember. It's one like these, the screw adjustable ones. I mean, not like super high dollar or anything, nothing too crazy, but they work pretty well for what they are. Nothing weird, not a whole bunch of moving parts, things of that nature. Fairly good tolerances on stuff. So we go out, we're like, okay, great. Um, and we do a slow mo. I put that on Instagram as well. But now what? Now we're suddenly way over gassed and we get a ton of bolt bounce. Hopefully, you guys know what bolt bounce is. But that's when if I thought I had a bolt carrier group in that drawer. I guess not. But let's just, I mean, so your bolt goes back, and then as it's closing, instead of just closing, it bounces. Okay, and now you get a dead trigger typically, or other problems. So now we've created a whole new problem, right? That's fine. I also now at this point know that I've got to what? I need to probably do my buffer and spring and all that stuff I did all over again. But before that, I want to verify that we are good. So this last weekend, those were the videos you just saw. I went out, I adjusted the gas block to see what happens. I used the MAD, so I knew I was using a can with, very low end on the pressure scales. And sure enough, I set it to run subs, and I looked at, okay, where am I ejecting my brass at? Okay, I'm at 3 o'clock. Fantastic. Now, because I'm tuning to run subs, and I'm on a fairly light buffer and spring probably still. Actually, I don't even remember because I went through so many combinations. We can pull it out right now and look to see what I did put in it, where we're at. But my goal was just to see if it was capable to get this thing to run at this point. Finally, reliably on everything. So that's what I did last weekend while I was out there at the end of the day. We tested everything that we were going to test. I was like, okay, I got this thing with me. I finally have a few free minutes. Let's throw it and see what happens. So we adjust it to run subs. It's running subs perfectly. Only takeaway is that the buffer and spring loud as shit, which I'm sure you can hear right here. Hear that twang? Loud as shit. That's got to go. We're not cool with that. No big deal. We're going to basically tune the damn thing anyway because we're going to change all that out. But because we're tuned for subs, think about this. We've got our gas block is going to be opened as far as we're going to want to open it to run on a fairly low back pressure can and to run subs. When we switch to supers, what's going to happen now? Well, now we're probably going to be in an overgas state. Not going to be as bad with the lower back pressure can, but it'll probably be worse with a higher back pressure can. So what do? We went ahead and we're hoping what? That we can shoot everything. That's our goal. We're going to accept that we're going to be shooting supers, but in an overgas state. So we just shoot regular steel cased ammo because, I mean, we're shooting 7.62 by 39. If we can't reliably shoot that cheap shit, then what's the point of shooting 7.62 by 39? So get out the Wolf ammo, go ahead, load up a few mags. Don't touch the tuning at all because, again, we want to make sure we can run subs, we shoot. And so far, everything cycles and runs great. Fantastic. It's loud because of the damn buffer. And it's loud, definitely going to be louder than 300 blackout. A lot of people think 300 blackout, 7.62 by 39, even subs are like the same. They're not at all. So then we have to switch to what? A suppressor that has more restriction, a little bit higher back pressure, to see if we do end up creating a situation where we get bolt bounce again, like we were getting before tuning. So that is where we're at. I ordered this week. I was going to run I normally, in like my 300 blackouts, I run a JP Silent Capture System H2. That's typically what I run in my 300 blackouts. I occasionally run a hydraulic system as well. Just kind of depends. Um, I went ahead instead of running JP because again, this is kind of a budget gun. And I've never shot one before. I picked up what's the I think someone even set it up here a second ago. But what's the cheaper silent capture system you can get? The hell's that company called? I'll tell you because I got it in my phone. It's me and Darren. We're just talking about it. Arm spec. I ordered an arm spec H2 system. When it comes in, I'm going to drop it in this thing. I'm going to go through the whole process again of running subs and supers, retune for an H2, and see if I can get it to run subs and supers reliably with a very low pressure can and a more kind of standard restrictive can. And if it can run all of those, even though supers will, no matter what, be in an overgas state, we don't get any bolt bounce, we have won. We've finally won. No matter what, tuning a rifle for exactly what you plan on shoot is always going to be better than trying to tune for a wide margin. But we've got to be able to run a wide margin of suppressors on subs and supers. So that's how we tune. And basically, then when we test cans, we can always assume that whatever our results are, they can be even better if you tune even further. So that's kind of how we set all of the guns up. So we are very close to having this thing completely set up. We're going to do a video just like we did 300 blackout subs with 7.62 by 39 subs on the current setup right now. And then later on, when we get this thing all the way done, we'll do a supers video as well. So that's what I need to know from you guys, by the way. So when we do our super stuff, do you guys want to see? We have to set a standard, right? Because whatever we set now has to be what's permanently done for all of our tests for the rest of time when it comes to metering suppressors. Do you guys think we should be metering our supers on your standard steel case 7.62 by 39 ammo like a Wolf? Or should we step up to a brass case, faster burning powder type ammo? Right now, I'm in the 7.62 by 39 Wolf camp because at the end of the day, I think most people are using and building these rifles for that type of ammo. And then if they do run something better, well, great. But it's kind of like that worst case scenario type thing. So that is where we're at with 7.62 by 39. It seems like it's been a long process. It actually hasn't been that long. It's just I don't always get to fuck with it because I've got many other more pressing things. Other things we did to this rifle. We went ahead and we stuck a slightly longer firing pin in it because initially we were getting a little bit of light primer strikes. I think I could probably do away with that now that we've got everything kind of dialed in. And then one of the other really important things to use is a magazine that makes sure to get the feed angle right. You don't want a flat or even, like the Duramags, perfect for this kind of thing. So if you're out there, and I know it because I got a bunch of comments from some of you guys on my videos, and that's why we're talking about it tonight. A lot of people struggle with the AR-47 and getting it to run right. And learn from my mistakes. The first thing I would do is look at the upper and the barrel extension and how that feeding process is, and are you running a Duramag? Next thing to look at is your gas block. Is it leaking? Is it properly aligned? And once you have those four things, then you can start fucking with buffers and springs. And only then, if you still can't get it to run, would I then start opening up your gas port. Only then, okay? And then go from there. So that's where we're at with that. Kaw Valley, dimple jig, then your gas blocks are aligned every time. I would much rather stick a borescope down there and literally see that they're aligned versus how they do it, but that is a way to do it, that's for sure. You need a rifle speed gas block, quick adjustment. You can have your number for each ammo. Not budget friendly though. I have not picked one up yet. I am planning on getting one and testing with it some. I like them. I like the idea behind them. We'll see how the fit and finish and everything turns out to be. I don't know. No comment yet because I haven't actually gotten one yet. But you're right; they are pricey. I think they're over $200. And you got to make sure you get, of course, the right length and whatnot. I thought about putting one on initially this guy, which is my new 12.5 inch mid upper. Um, a friend of mine sent me this Geisley upper handguard, so it's a little short for the mid length, but whatever. I don't really care. It's not a big deal to me. If I was going to do it all over again and I cared about how it looked, of course I'd want a longer handguard, but I got a smoking deal on the handguard, and I can switch it out eventually and throw it on my 10.5, and it'll be perfect. And then I can get the proper handguard for it. But right now, not a huge deal, but am interested in testing the rifle speed stuff. We're going to do it probably just like we did with 300 Blackout subs this week, or supers this week. Now that we've got the 10.5, the 12.5, and the 18-inch 5.56, I want to do 4 to 5 suppressors on all 3 of those and really look at the differences, all with the same lower receiver. So we're using just really looking at barrel length and gas system length. So many combinations out there that it's tough to test every combination. But with the 12.5 mid and adjustable gas block, you should potentially be able to use a more kind of restrictive can, and that should lead to the ability to get a little bit quieter without the gassiness, right? In theory. I'm only interested in subs. I'm honestly only interested in subs too, but everyone's different, man. Subs is going to be first, that's for sure. Hey, the shorter handguard just means less weight. Absolutely. I mean, and where my hand placement is already, it's already like it's perfect for me, so it doesn't really bother me. And I'll be honest with you, I like being able to access my gas block, and I like that my gas block isn't under my handguard heating my handguard, though my barrel is going to do that regardless. But I mean, think about how much closer your gas block is to the inside of your handguard. So you're going to get that heat transference first before your barrel. But if you're shooting full auto, I mean, it's going to happen no matter what. Shit gets hot. And then for those who've stuck around long enough, I want to show you something that Tyler's going to kill me for showing you guys. So Facebook is what led me to this. There was someone's Facebook post, and they said something like, man, I wish there was a Resilient Suppressors RSP that was even longer. Can you imagine, even though it's already so amazing, how much better it would be, especially when you bring down those muzzle numbers? How do we bring down muzzle numbers? Length and volume. A few other things, but I'm not going to go into that because it's more proprietary. So RSP, right? How can we add length to it? Well, here's my rugged obsidian. It's modular. It has a modular end. Guess what has the same threads? Do I recommend doing this? Absolutely not. Do I think this could end up being a baffle strike on the obsidian portion? Well, they already have baffle strike problems with their end caps, so I mean, is it really any different? But there you go. Now you suddenly have a much longer RSP if you wanted it. It will also fit on the RS9 because it shares the same threads. I'm not sure what the length is, but this is like an 11 and a 11 and a quarter inch suppressor right here. And here's where this is. So, I mean, that's probably an inch and a half shorter. So, I mean, this thing's probably 9.5 inches in this configuration. I could go grab a way to measure it real quick if you guys really, really want me to. But I'm highly tempted to shoot this and meter this and see what happens. Um, Let me know if you guys want to see that or not. I don't want to like do that and waste resources and time if no one really cares. But I mean, some people clearly care because they took the time to, um, say some stuff on Facebook and whatnot. And I think it'd be super cool to see if it can get quieter or not. Because I mean, the RSP is already stupid how quiet it is to the shooter and on the out of ear side. So any type of reduction on the muzzle side can potentially also lead to more reduction on the out of ear side, even more, as well as then make it quieter to bystanders around. And I mean that's going to be pretty cool if it is quieter, right? So that's an idea, and it fits. It's going to fit on the RS9 as well. So for the carbine dudes, I mean, running a longer can on a carbine is a lot easier than running a longer can on a pistol. So that should be pretty freaking neat. I think this is going to be the topic next week. This long guy that we had made based off my design for 300 blackout subs predominantly, but it should kick butt on pretty much everything. It's using 3 different cone types. We've talked about it a little already, but we're going to be like single step 50, high gas capture storage cones in the middle, pocket radials in the distal, all spaced perfectly, um, super long. I mean, this should be the epitome of as quiet as you can get something like this potentially. So we'll see. I think that's going to be next week's topic. That or I might save it for like the end of the month. I'm not 100% sure. We also have a 22 can you guys have never seen before. This thing's pretty cool too. It's got 2 different cone types, technically 3 different cone types as well. I've been getting a lot of asks for more 22 stuff, and it's going to use a pretty unique take on the relationship of the first cone with your muzzle on 22, followed by some shorter cones, followed by a very unique, extremely unique take actually on a pocket style cone with very unique porting. We'll talk about all of it. We'll look at the models. We'll look at my theories behind why it is the way it is, and we'll see how it does. High hopes there, though it isn't a little bit on the older side. I made that one quite a while ago. I just never shown you guys it. It was an experiment of mine. The problem with is, every 20, every type of test we do, we need a control can, right? So we pick one suppressor that we never change, and we shoot every single can against it, and that allows us to rank things with a much higher degree of accuracy. So while we've done 22 videos, and there are 22 videos, I've never assigned a control can for ranking purposes. So I need to assign a 22 ranking can, and I'm honestly not 100% sure what can I want to assign to it. I'm tempted to use Modulus. A lot of people have this style of can, um, and use it as kind of a base case. It's been a good can. It does well, and then test everything against it from here on out, and look at how much better or worse every single can is. So thoughts on that, or if you think I should use a different control can as our assigned control can from basically here on out in the channel's legacy or whatnot. So I'm kind of up in the air about that, but that's where my head is currently. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure. It's going to probably depend more on you guys if you guys don't like that I'm going to do that or not. But I can imagine why you wouldn't. The control can doesn't necessarily matter what it is so much. We want a decent can. We want a good can. But really, all the control can is doing is consistency. but it can tell us some things, just like the LN and its specific flow rate has helped tell us some things on these last recent tests we just did. So I think that pretty much updates you guys on what is currently going on for the most part. Um, Now that we've done all the selective venting stuff, and now that we did PCV2, Pocket Cone, Pocket Cone Mixed Can version 2, the fact all the like tests we've done in the last probably 4 months has kind of opened up a new door and an avenue to go down for some future rifle cans. And this is sort of like one of those to kind of get us started off, right? But more leaning towards like just the extreme, extreme length, um, things of that nature, extreme cone counts. Now I think it's time we build a new rifle can that kind of takes all of that we've learned recently and puts it all kind of into one. And then the other thing would be to probably add a couple new Form 4 cans to the mix. And then I also want to look at possibly a couple of the older kind of designs that I feel we need to get on our ranking to see where they kind of land. Because looking back at a couple, they, I think, have more to offer than what we might have initially realized under the old system of doing things. So lots of irons in the fire. I still want to try to get some new mount and muzzle device stuff out, testing mount and muzzle device stuff, because at the end of the day, it's always fun when people finally realize how important mount and muzzle device stuff is. Someone even wrote me the other day, and they were like, man, I switched from my YHM Kurtz with my single port to a dead air chemo. I forget what muzzle device they were using. And they're like, why did my cane get so much louder? And it's like, well, because it happens. Your muzzle device and your mount are pretty freaking important, you know. It's just going to depend, And they ended up going, and then they also had to use Cherry Bomb, for example, in Plan B, and they're like, that was really quiet. Yeah, it is. Cherry Bomb works well when it comes to making cans quiet. It's just not really good without a suppressor, and it has some other detractors, but it's still pretty good. Long story short, now they're on the Reardon bandwagon, and they're going to try RPB and SPB. If you guys don't know, go to Reardon Manufacturer's website. You can look at what those are. I run RPBs and SPBs and R2Ss, the short version of the R2s, predominantly, because they work well. They're quiet. And, I'd like to expand on that even more. I would like to get Xeno done finally, and I would like to probably get a YHM offering done finally. And then, of course, I've been shooting the hell you call it? The dual lock? No. Yeah, dual lock, right? Whatever Griffin's new stupid mount system is. Not stupid, but just whatever it is. I forget, and they're like their HRT cans. I've been shooting that as well, trying to kind of form a solid opinion on that, and we'll do something with that sometimes. Does the 22 have cool end caps? Coolness lowers DBs by 3, I've been told. No, not really any cool end caps. I mean, this one kind of has a cool end cap. It's got an older school flash cap on it, but end caps are important. Don't get me wrong, but nothing like visually too cool. Yeah, the Strike Industries adjustable gas block is horrible. Great idea, but it's a waste. It's a total waste of money. I haven't thrown it in the garbage just because I wanted to keep it for the same, just like we used tonight, purposes. Uh, like I said, I would never normally buy anything Strike Industries. I literally was kind of killing two birds with one stone. The idea behind it was kind of cool. I wanted to try it. And the only reason I really wanted to even do that was because this particular build was just such a budget kind of build, right? That I was like, well, I guess it's appropriate. It's not like this is going to be a rifle that is going to see, a lot of use other than, whatever. And then I'm trying something new. I can evaluate it. I can see, and sure enough, man, I mean, look, uh, I want to say two of the screws broke pretty much almost immediately. I had to go and drill those out. It's just the fit and fit. It's a neat idea and everything, but like a lot of things, execution is what matters more than the idea and your ability to mass produce it. And a lot of that shit is made in China, and while China can make some stuff good, not everything. Sure wish I threw a 14.5 in there. I'm assuming you're talking about the 5.56 stuff. I don't think I have a 14.5. No, I don't. Um, I'd be more tempted to throw a 16 in there, but I guess 14.5 pin and welded would actually not be a bad idea. I mean, if I get a chance to buy, I guess, another upper between now and the time I do that video, that's not a terrible idea, actually. I really don't need another fucking 5.56 upper versus buying, something else new. But it's tempting, just to kind of cover the gamut. I mean, at that point, I might as well get another, you know, couple, a different lengths and do a whole big thing. But I think we'll learn quite a bit already just with the three we're going to talk about. But I'll keep it in mind. That's not a terrible idea. It's not. It really isn't a terrible idea. So 458 SOCOM. Yeah, if you want to add another thing. I just finally got someone off the Reloader Discord hooked me up. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but 6 ARC brass and ammo is like freaking impossible to get in a lot of ways, especially for an affordable price. But anyway, you can resize 6.5 Grendel brass to 6 ARC brass pretty fucking easily. 6.5 Grendel brass, at least from a budgetary standpoint, not always easy to find either. But a dude sent me like 200 rounds of Hornady 6.5 brass, Grendel brass, for pretty cheap. So I'm super psyched about that. So now I can finally start doing more reloading on the 6 ARC. I also just got a Lyman American 8, by the way. So finally moving up in the world in the reloading area. Though my buddy who lets me use his reloading room a lot and does a lot of reloading for me has an all American 8 plus 5 other ones. So I've used it already a little bit, and I liked it enough that I picked one up. Andrew's got one; he's always liked it. So I was like, you know what? It's time to get a new reloading press. I gotta go and clean all those and deprime them. But I want to shoot 6 ARC on a couple cans with you guys as well, and probably 5.56 at the same time, and look at kind of some of the differences when we go to these newer calibers, right? These a little bit more extreme end of things. Should be interesting to see how much different the suppression is versus our traditional 5.56. 6 ARC's amazing. I don't know if any of you guys have had any time behind it, but I've only gotten happier with building a 6 ARC rifle since I've done it. Um, it just has so many cool benefits, and you can go to a pretty short system and just still reach out and and touch people or things or whatever pretty easily. A lot better than you could with something like 5.56. So it's pretty neat. It's just expensive to shoot and a little bit of a pain in the ass. But hopefully eventually that changes. Hell yeah, just a quick shot would be cool if you shot the RSP rugged. Oh, you're talking about if I combine the two or whatever. Yeah, no, I'm totally down. I like that kind of stuff. Like I've metered a lot of cans and a lot of designs, and like the fun stuff for me these days is the weird stuff. Like I had a lot of fun doing this 300 blackout video. It ended up being a pretty good time. But like we did the RSP with a wipe a couple weeks back. That was a fun video. I enjoyed that video. Doing something silly like adding the longer section here on the RSP. Like to me, those are kind of the funner videos, and they all still have a lot of value in learning as well. It's not like it's just entertainment. You can learn and take away things. We can look at the data short to long, right, and we can take and make conclusions from it. No, absolutely no problem there. So it just, yeah, it just depends. No shortage of ideas, that's for sure. Just do people want to see them or not? That's where it kind of comes down to. At the end of the day, we got to make sure we're doing things that people want to watch, not just what I want to do. I try to cater to everyone. I want to do So I really want to do the RS9, right? I want to do because there's literally no like meter data on the RS9 in video format for the public, right? On some carbines. Um, Eventually, Pew Science will do it as well, but I would much rather do it well before them, just like I did with the RSP, and get you guys that information. But at the same time, I understand that we've got to kind of switch it up. We can't just do all 9mm, all rifle or what. The big thing, though, and I'm not the only one who will tell you this if they're honest. Actually, I just had a conversation with, let's just say, someone else who does a lot of content, and same kind of deal. It's like it doesn't matter how great the information was, how great the performance on, let's say, the RSP was, or the Obsidian or whatever pistol caliber can you're testing. Those videos tend to get less people than the rifle stuff. Like rifle stuff just brings in the most people. So um, while we're going to do the pistol stuff no matter what, again, my point is we have to kind of balance it all, right? But we can't just do rifle all the time either. We can't just do 22. We can't just do whatever. We got to mix it all up as best as we can. And I try to do that. But I also try to go where the information, the data takes us as well. For example, our results on RSP highlighted a specific other can in our ranking that we should probably really shoot it against back to back now. I want to do that. I'd like to do it soon, but at the same time, since we just did so much 9mm last month, I should probably wait a little bit, at least in my mind. I don't know. It's all about your guys' feedback. Ideal 6.5 Creedmoor build. Are we talking suppressor or rifle? 6.5 Creedmoor and 308 from a suppressor standpoint, pretty much the exact same thing. Anything you see that measures well, 308 is going to do great on 6.5 Creedmoor. If you want to change the bore size to the 6, 5 category only, that's great. Um, but yeah, as far as like how to build the can, those are literally the only differences. You are using slightly different powders from a burn perspective, um, but that's literally really it. Ballistically, of course, it's pretty different. Um, Accuracy, range, terminal, that stuff's all pretty different. But as far as what can goes on the end of the gun and how well it will perform, it's really just going to be a bore change. So look for things that do really well in 308 bolt guns and buy those, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Sneak peek of the long can you are working on for the end of the week internals. I mean, I kind of gave you a verbal sneak peek. So, I mean, it's single step 50s, high gas capture storage cones, which, if you look at the master post and have been following the last 2 months of videos, you should know what those all are. We even talked about it earlier in the live stream. And then a pocket style radial in the distal, like Pocket Cone version 2 has. Slightly different pocket radial, but that style of thing. So we're combining three of kind of like the best things in very key areas to see what will happen. And then we were also kind of trying to tailor towards 300 blackout subs a little bit. So we did go with a little bit smaller blast chamber, but I mean, we're still just on the small end of my typical recommendation for like 300 black. So we're still, 2 inches. The can should do great pretty much across the board, regardless, even though it is technically targeted at more 300 blackout. So some people had said, we really want to see something, tailored to 300 blackout, 300 blackout subs or whatnot. Um, so I figured, okay, great, let's do that. But we'll go and we'll try to literally go for like the quietest thing we can by increasing the length. And that's what we did. So I haven't shot it yet. I have no idea how it does at this moment. I have no clue. Looking forward to shooting it. I'm really bad at keeping this all organized and nice. Suppressors are easy. It's the guns that are not as easy. This guy? You guys remember this guy? One of my favorite 22 cans. This little guy right here. 1 inch by 3 inches. Literally beats the fuck out of a lot of cans out there that are full size. There's a video on it. Just go to the 22 section of the Master Post. Oh, so the other day, I literally scared the fuck out of myself. I thought I lost the suppressor, and I was literally freaking out. And what happened was it fell down off the shelf somehow, and it like wedged itself down below under a crease where the door goes. And man, did I freak out. It was like, how could I lose the suppressor? There's no way. And I literally tore my house apart. Like, did I leave it somewhere? Did I take it somewhere? Because I had just shot it the weekend. Did I leave it out at the range somehow? Did I leave it? Man, I was freaking out, let me tell you. And I eventually remembered that I heard something like fall a while back. And I went and grabbed the flashlight and I started looking around, and sure enough, there it was. And I was like, oh, thank you, God. Scary. 14.5 piston. Why don't you ever run piston guns? Are they too noisy? That's mainly it. Never really been a huge fan of piston guns. We'll probably do maybe like a piston versus DI metering session at some point. That's actually been something I've thought about. Um, the other thing I've thought about doing, and this has actually been really recent, was I was on Facebook, and it's what gave me the idea. Is someone on Facebook did a post, and they were talking about how they had switched their superlative arms adjustable gas block over to the unrestricted mode. So I don't know how many of you guys know that, but basically, how they work, I should say. Um, I'm going to try to draw a little picture. This is a really, really shitty picture. But let's say this was your gas port, right? And that gas came up, and normally a screw would adjust, and that's what blocks off our gas port. Well, on some of the superlative arms, you can pull that screw back enough. So instead of restricting the gas port, now you start bleeding off gas into a little chamber that vents into atmosphere. So now you're adding a third noise source, right? Out to the atmosphere. So instead of restricting how much gas can get to your BCG, you're allowing a very similar amount of gas, but the rest of it is now going just out immediately, venting basically from the barrel or less via the gas port or the gas block. So now we've got a muzzle source, a gas block source, and a bolt carrier, our bolt cycling source. 3 sources of noise plus our buffer tube and spring. So how much louder or quieter? Obviously, we're tuning the gun even in that unrestricted mode, right? Where we're venting to atmosphere, that bleed off way. So are we going to gain at ear suppression? And then how is this noise from our muzzle and our gas block going to then affect our source from our bolt carrier group? Hopefully this makes sense. So that is one of the things I really have been wanting to do a video on for you guys. I just don't know if anyone's interested or not. But I think you should be, because it should be highly interesting. I mean, adding a whole third variable here. Has CGS come out with a new mount for the Helios tie QD to help direct the gas better through the suppressor, making it more effective on the Mark 18 10.3? Have they released one to the public? No, they haven't. They were working on one, I can tell you that much, but I'm pretty sure they abandoned it for building a new suppressor instead. CGS should be coming out with a 9mm carbine suppressor, and then I believe a 5.56 suppressor in response to all of that, which I don't know when it'll come out, but they've made plenty of posts showing a bunch of prototypes and things they've been working on. Not anything inside, like what's inside, but just that the cans exist and that they're sending them out to certain people to, get some experience with. More than likely, what's going to happen, actually, I know exactly what will happen. CGS will release their suppressor the same exact day, more than likely, that a Pew Science review will drop on it. And then suddenly that same day, a bunch of other YouTubers will drop, reviews as well, more than likely. And that is exactly how it'll probably go down. Timeline on that, I would guess probably fairly soon. I would think maybe even before Thanksgiving, but I mean, I am totally on that perspective, just shooting from the hip there, just basing on whatever. Um, 3D printing suppressors is not fast. So they got to make enough of them too. They have to settle on the design, and whatnot. But that's, and then you got to have J and timing, all that stuff. But that's how I foresee all of that going down. Um, and the 9mm might come out before the 5.6. Now, for those who don't know, they technically also have a can that they did a while back, a very smaller one, that is exclusive to, what the hell is that company? Why can't I think of it? Oh, a while back they did like an exclusive can for a company specific for like 5.56. I would expect what's coming out to be better though. Todd did a write up on ARFCOM when he metered every click on the SA gas block. Um, okay, I mean, I guess I should ask Todd, but at the same time, I'll be honest with you, I would still want to do it myself. I think I would do a better job. I have my way of doing things, and just like you probably have things you do in your life, and you would probably think you would do a better job at them than other people. I think it was my post. I finally got 2 dialed in for bleed off and swapped my 10.5 over to. No, Chris, it wasn't your post. It was someone else. It was on the Form 1 suppressor builders page, and it was specifically relating to, oh my God, look how great this is because now my brass and my magazine is clean. Which, of course, I mean, if you dial it all back enough, that's going to happen. We just don't know if it's any quiet at that point once you do it, right? We just don't know what we're giving up in exchange, right? Dang, I just got one from the Helios and I wanted for my marketing. Can you recommend a break that may help more with getting it to work better? Literally, the only mount I would buy for a Helios QD is Reardon's mount specifically for Helios QD, and I would probably buy an R2S to go with it. Or, yeah, no, I would probably buy an R2S. Yep, that's what I would probably put on it. I don't think I'd want a break. I'd want something that vented in a 360-degree pattern that was short. Uh, it'd have to be short. Yeah, I think I would put an R2S on it. Oh yeah, I've seen that post. One, his brass was black, and the other was less black. Yeah, I mean that was basically the sum of it, and that's what got me thinking about. Hey, it would be interesting to do this and really take like a deep dive and really look at this. 8819 Todd posted about finding sweet spots where he shot one bullet at each clock to find ideal settings on a 16-inch ballistic advantage looking at your muzzle data for each clock. So, I mean, we're on a 16-inch gun, so that's only really good for the 16. The gas block's going to be farther away than our shorter stuff, which is mainly where we're going to benefit the most from. We're only shooting 1 round, so, I mean, at the bare minimum, I would be shooting at least 3 rounds. I'm not saying like the data isn't like helpful. I'm sure there's something to learn from it. Absolutely. I would just I would want something a little more. I would just want something different. That's what I'm saying. I would still like to go read what Todd did for sure, or I'll just ask Todd directly if he still has it or whatnot. But plus, I think it'd make for an interesting deal. I've got essays on a couple different guns. So, I mean, we could look at a couple different lengths. A couple different cans, because again, the can that we use is going to play a part in there too. You know, variables are endless. They always are. I appreciate it. I apologize if that's how I came off. I didn't mean it that way. I'm elaborating kind of where I'm thinking aloud more than anything, right? I think CJS gave the company SC a regular, some experimental new suppressors to test. Yeah, that might be one of them. I think that you're right. I mean, and again, when we say test, we're talking about like shoot. Hopefully look at how it runs on a lot of different guns. I don't know if they'll do flash testing or what. Who knows? We until we see what they do. But I mean, I have really so like if there's anyone out there right now making cans that I have really high hopes for that isn't from like our little B team of suppressor makers, it's CGS Group and Thunder Beast. That's basically it. Yeah, appreciate it. There were some people too who took a couple Helioses, if I remember right. Yeah, no, it was Helioses, I think. And they wire EDM the bores to 9 millimeter, and they've been running them on 9 millimeter carbines. And I think that maybe that might even be where they possibly saw like a niche they could go after. I don't know if before that like they wanted to do a carbine can or not. I have no idea. Total speculation. Being the Mod 9 has been around and they've used the Mod 9 in that role quite a bit. It's cool to see them updating their designs, right? Like that's what I don't like. There some companies will over update their designs where like they come out with a new design too fast a lot of times. Like, think about it, it takes you so long to get your suppressor and then a new design on that suppressor comes out before you even get the last design. That's something that's always been a pet peeve of mine. um, at the same time, you get a lot of places that stick with literally the exact same design for years. They might change the outside, they might change the length, the material, whatever. But what's inside is literally the same fucking technology from the year before, the year before that, 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 the year before that. You know, that's not gonna be a good thing if you don't want to get kind of left behind, right? You got to always be trying to think about what improvements you can make. Just because your design worked really well and beat everyone one year does not mean it'll be the best fucking design or even a top 10 design a year from now or 2 years from now or whatever time period. And then there are certain companies that follow a different route, right? They look more towards a simple design that does okay, but then offering low price point or the ability to like custom make your length or things of kind of like that nature, and that's how they tend to attract people to them. There's a lot of different approaches, and it's kind of impossible to do them all, right? Like you can't be like the most innovative can maker and always have the most innovative can, plus also offer a ton of custom options because the more innovative stuff is, typically the harder it is going to be to mass produce and make. especially when we get into like the 3D printing stuff. That already gets to be pretty expensive, and time consuming, actually. So imagine like it would be cool in theory, like it should be to print, and change things you would think would be fairly easy, but it wouldn't be, right? Because you typically, to make all of it work, you've got to make a lot of one can first off to get an order filled, and you can't just like print off one offs, right? Unless you owned a bunch of your own machines. But right now, those types of machines like DMLS and stuff are not cheap. They're very prohibitively expensive still. So, especially a good one. Um, but one day, you never know. Like just today, right? We were having a debate about EVs, electric vehicles. Me and a few of my friends. Some of my friends are on board. Some of my friends are not. I hate that this EV stuff and this alternative energy stuff has gotten so political. I feel like you can't be conservative and like electric vehicles in a lot of ways. Like it's almost like frowned upon. It's almost like if you like EV vehicles, it means you're liberal or something, which in my opinion is not the case at all. Obviously, there's huge shortfalls in things like our electrical grid and stuff like that, right? Um, Range and whatnot, But it doesn't mean we can't get there eventually. Now, should we be pushing adoption on people? Fuck no, we shouldn't. Absolutely not. Should we be limiting, how much fossil fuels and shit people use? Fuck no, we shouldn't. Absolutely not. But it doesn't mean that technology can't change. So just today, um, a thing came out and they were talking about how they just made like a new type of way to basically have an electrical connection through a spinning turbine, right? So right now they have to use neodymium magnets and rare earth materials, prohibitively expensive. There's not a lot of rare earth metals, blah 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 blah. So in regards to wind turbines, so I want to say it was Sandia Laboratories. They came out with this new thing, and it replaces all of that, right? And it's almost like a car's differential, but with like a coil that can move and stuff. It's very interesting. But those are the types of innovations that eventually make things more possible, right? So what looks hard to do now doesn't necessarily have to be always that way. Um, and doesn't always have to be expensive either, right? So never count technology out. Technology is always moving and it's deflationary most of the time. Joey, I did just get your messages, sir, so I've got it. Appreciate it. I will take a look at it. All right. Unless you guys have anything else you want to talk about, I think we're going to call it a night here. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. I'm going to walk into the room and grab a drink. I'll be right back. And then we'll finish up if that's the case. Well, I got some bad news before we did the live stream. They're trying to total my damn truck again. I've been in this total giant battle with them on valuating the valuation of my vehicle. Been way undervalued twice now. Fucking bullshit. Insurance companies are a joke. All right. Well, I don't see any questions. So I am going to go ahead and call it an evening here. Appreciate you guys showing up, and we'll see you guys later. Tuesday. I'm honestly not sure what we're going to do next week. I haven't quite decided. I'm split between a few different things, so we'll see. But yeah, we'll see you guys later.